Dragon's Lair was one of the most popular arcade games in 1983, with a unique concept of interactive animated sequences where the player had to make real-time decisions and watch the game unfold through the cartoon. It ate up a ton of quarters and led to many different ports on various home consoles, the most infamous being the 1990 NES port. Now, obviously, there was no way to replicate the FMV sequences on an 8-bit cartridge, so a side-scroller was created from scratch, although it's still based off of the same story. You control a warrior named Dirk the Daring, who goes on an adventure to rescue Princess Daphne from an evil dragon named Singe. Upon first glance, you might be thinking, this looks pretty good. And the graphics are great. The animation is actually some of the best that the NES has to offer. But it seems like that's all the game designers were focused on. They figured if you can animate the character as closely as they possibly could to the original arcade version, then they did their jobs and the rest of the game could just fall into place. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. The control is just utterly loathsome. You can walk very slowly, crouch down on all fours in an attempt to duck, jump, which gives you a lot more hang time than you'll ever need, and fire off a weapon. You'll start out with daggers and find other weapons later on. All of these commands have a delay that's just unacceptable, especially since most hazards in the game are one-hit deaths. Some, and I do mean some, enemies will drain some of your health bar, but you might as well just try desperately to avoid anything and everything. And your sprite is fucking huge, so it doesn't make it any easier to avoid hazards. Taking simple jumps with low ceilings is difficult because of this also. You'll have to be standing in the right spot to make a simple jump. Anyone who's ever touched this game has had their jaw drop at its utter wretchedness. It's so goddamn frustrating. There are only a few levels, but each of them are so extraordinarily difficult due to the horrible controls and the fact that every single inch of terrain is jam-packed with death traps. You have to be super careful everywhere you go, and every new obstacle you run into requires a trial and error guessing game. To figure out how to get past any obstacle in the game requires you to die first almost every time. You start out with 6 lives, and believe me, you'll need every last one of them. There are no continues, my friend. Sometimes for no reason at all, this floating king asshole will show up at random and attack you. It takes like 7 hits to kill him with the dagger, and amazingly it doesn't kill you in 1 hit, but it's still a twisted, cheap-ass way to hurt you. I've tried to figure out a pattern as to when and where this king appears, but it all seems to be random. At any point in the game he could show up. And the most annoying part is that if you do kill him, he'll come back like 5 seconds later, and he won't stop reappearing until he finally makes contact with you, or if you reach the end of the level. I mean, that's bullshit. You have these daggers for weapons, and naturally they suck. They travel in an arc pattern which makes aiming more difficult than it should be, especially since sometimes you'll have to crouch to connect with low-level enemies, and transitioning between standing and crouching isn't too easy when you have to react fast. But you can pick up these power-ups indicated by these icons. A is for axes and F is for fireballs. They help out. But they're hidden half the time, and you have to press the start button to use your candle to be able to see them. Without any idea whatsoever on when to use this candle, you just have to take a lucky guess. And if you grab a D icon, you'll be downgraded back down to the daggers, so you'll want to avoid these at all costs. Unless, of course, you already have them. It doesn't matter then. So aside from using the candles to spot other weapons, you'll also need it to see in the dark sometimes. Imagine that. The game is hard enough as it is. Now you have to use an item or you'll be in complete pitch black. And you could find yourself in pitch black anyway because the fucking candle has a limited amount of energy. You can find C icons to fill up your candle meter, E icons add energy to your health bar, G gives you gold which only leads to bonus points, so who cares, and P gives you points, again, who gives a shit. I would give a shit if these points led to an extra life, but they're meaningless. There are extra lives in the form of the L icons, but they're very rare. What has to be the biggest kick in the balls is the elevator shaft that you'll have to take between levels, but I'll get into those details during the walkthrough. So the first stage is really just a one-screen warm-up level to get you used to how the game works. All you have to do in this level is get through the door that opens up on the right-hand side, but it's not as easy as it looks. There are parts of this bridge that fall apart if you walk over them. I guess the bridge is just as much of a piece of shit as the game. Plus you've got bats that fly out of the castle, and the dragon that pops out of the water and breathes fire. You can't jump over the dragon and go through the door, because you have to kill the dragon before it'll stay open. The dragon always stays under the bridge where you can't hit it unless you're standing straight up, where you'll be in direct contact with its fire shots. So to hit the motherfucker, you'll have to crouch down. But that's when it goes back under the bridge where it's immune to your attacks. So the only way to defeat this dragon is to walk over to the dragon to lure him out, jump over the gap in the bridge, and hurry back left and crouch down so you can duck under the fire, all the while shooting down the bats that might get into your way. Although they won't kill you in one hit, so there's not as much of a necessity to get out of the way. Then stand up and fire the daggers at the dragon, continuously crouching to duck underneath the fire. Repeat the process until it's dead. Then you just have to be careful not to fall through the gaps in the bridge, and you'll advance to what is really the first level, the entrance hall. At the beginning, there are 2 prisoners that throw rocks from their rooms, which are instant death. Walk by the first one as soon as you start, and wait in the middle for the second one to throw 2 rocks before moving on, where you'll encounter a snake that you'll need to take out as soon as it shows up, or you'll get hit with an instant death rock that it spits out. In fact, since so many hazards in this game are instant death, I won't even bother pointing out which ones are, since I'll sound like a broken record. I'll do the opposite and point out which ones are actually not instant deaths. So anyway, after killing the snake, use your candle to grab the axes up here. They'll do a lot more damage than the shitty daggers. Then crouch down and crawl under the doors. The first one goes down before going back up, and the second one comes down twice. Then kill another snake, wait for the next prisoner to throw his rocks, and if you need health, jump up and grab the energy icon and retreat to let the prisoner throw his rocks again before moving on. Then these bats will pour out of this large pipe in the wall. Kill them if you can, but focus more on getting past the next prisoner and taking out the snake that follows it. Unfortunately, you'll end up having to downgrade back to daggers after grabbing this D icon. It's pretty unavoidable, but right before the next set of doors, use the candle to get the axes again. When you're in between the 2 doors, don't crawl over this gap, you'll fall into it. So you have to jump across, but don't hold the button down too hard or you'll end up hitting the ceiling and falling anyway. So you have to jump softly and be sure to land just before the door so you don't get taken out. And then once you get by it, you have to stand just past the door so the next prisoner's rocks don't take you out. When you get to the next prisoner, don't bother trying to get the gold icon above. It's a pain in the ass to get it without dying, and it's not even worth it anyway. So just keep walking until you get to the boss, which is a series of these fucking snakes that you encounter during the level. As soon as the boss battle begins, kill the first snake that shows up. If you hesitate for a split second, then you'll get pelted with a rock. So with the first snake killed, move over to the middle and keep out of reach of the next 2 snakes that appear. Kill the one on the right and keep firing to take out 2 more that'll show up. Then turn around and kill the one on the left. And then head left and kill the one that appears up top from behind. Then go back to the middle and kill off 2 more snakes from the left side, and then you're all done with the level. And now on to the dreaded elevator shaft that I mentioned earlier. It'll descend and stop momentarily on each floor, and you're supposed to jump from the elevator to the deck to get to the next level. But the elevator doesn't stay still for too long. It'll just start going down again, and if you jump at any point after the elevator starts moving again, you're gonna miss. Not to mention that the deck blends in with the brick background pretty well, so you might not even see it or understand what the hell you're supposed to do on this part when you first see it. But this is the part that sucks hardcore. You don't know which floor you're supposed to take to advance. Let's say you take the first floor it stops on. You go back to the first level again. What the hell did I do to deserve that? You have a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. It's all complete bullshit luck. It's not like there are any clues to figure out which floor is the right one. If you take the 3rd stop, you'll end up all the way back to the fucking intro stage. Just what I needed. And if you let the elevator go all the way down to the 4th and final stop, then you'll end up in this unnecessary bonus stage to pick up extra points, as if you really want that. But the problem with this, as if there wasn't one already, is that this stupid fucking king shows up. And he'll actually kill you immediately upon impact this time, and he doesn't die. The idea is to grab the gold icon that comes and goes over the throne, but keeping the king at bay and giving yourself a chance to get up there is nearly impossible. And then when you die, you'll have to try again. What the hell kind of bonus level not only kills you, but prevents you from continuing through the game if you don't get past it? It's fucking ridiculous. What's even more ridiculous is that the stupid elevator shaft shows up between every single level. Imagine being sent back to the first level right as you're within reach of the last level. It doesn't get any more frustrating than that. So you'd probably have to spend hours and hours not only figuring out how to get past these levels, but figuring out the right combination on these pointless elevator sequences. So here you want to take the second stop to get to the second level, the gold mines.